Thank you. Member Langley East, please.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I can't express how excited I am to rise to speak today in favour of the Education Statutes Amendment Act of 2021, Bill 25. And although I was born in 1977, I haven't had as much time in the system as my friend and colleague who spoke prior. I have been involved, or had been involved in education for about half of that journey, as First Nations in this province have been working to advance jurisdiction over education for more than 20 years. So standing here today as an MLA coming from a background of school board, like the critic who spoke about how we have a long way to go, but we have come a long way, is such an honor because it really is true. Watching the evolution and the partnership and the work that's taken place over this 10 years that I've been involved really has been nothing short of amazing. And I'm thrilled to be able to stand in the House to talk about how this looks in Langley, where I'm the MLA for Langley East, and what it was like watching it over my time as trustee. Although I could probably talk for hours and hours and hours, I will spare everybody that and be as brief as possible so others can have an opportunity to speak also, because I know how passionate our caucus and the entire House actually is about this. Because true lasting reconciliation with Indigenous peoples is at the heart of everything that we do. And education, I believe, is a great equalizer in society and helps us overcome so many things, poverty, and all the other challenges that come with that. So it makes sense that education must be central. It must play a key role in reconciliation. And to read about how these legislative changes amend the First Nations Education Act, the Teachers Act, the Criminal Records Review Act, and how they've been developed in collaboration with FNESC, or the First Nations Education Steering Committee, I'm simply thrilled. FNESC, the First Nations Education Steering Committee, was actually founded in 1992 at the First Nations Education Conference at the Vancouver Friendship Centre. And their role and their focus has been on advancing quality education for all First Nation learners. And each of the BCSTA conferences I attended, FNESC was there and representatives were there, and we had passionate people from our board who had the privilege of sitting with FNESC, and actually former trustee Cecilia Ricci, who is Cecil Paul's daughter, was our representative when I first started on school board, and has remained an advocate, served as a Yayastol rep. So we have a committee in Langley called Yayastol, and Yayastol translates to One Heart, One Mind. And they, when I first served as trustee, were the group that came together, because my school district sits on the traditional territories of the Kwantlen, Katzie-Matsqui, and Semiahmoo territories, would come together and work and help develop our very first Aboriginal Enhancement Agreement. And if memory serves me correctly, we were one of the very first to ever have one in Langley. And the group that works together has always had a trustee representative, and our current trustee representative is Trustee Suzanne Perot, who is so passionate about this area and of Métis heritage. Prior to that, we had Trustee Rosemary Wallace, who has one of the kindest hearts. And interestingly, my CA, her mom, way back when she served as a trustee, was one of the very first ones, Diane Pona, and really worked hard to advance reconciliation, probably, many, many years ago, well over 10, but more like 15 or 20. So our district, the minister and I had the privilege very recently to tour Donna Gabriel Robbins Elementary, our new school, which really embodies the Board of Education under the leadership of Trustee and Chair Rod Ross and all the other trustees who serve there, so dedicated to reconciliation, was named after Donna Robbins Gabriel, who is so, she really embodies for First Nations education, committed to language revitalization, working with people, advancing reconciliation, just one of the most wonderful educators we have in our district. And seeing these changes over time, you know, the work that Finesca's done, schools, language being revitalized, those incremental important steps that are so vital to advancing reconciliation taking place. And now this piece of legislation coming forward really starts to sort of show the whole picture. So I remember starting as a trustee, we would have these conversations, and Finesca would come and talk about you know, steps that we as trustees should take, and how we can advance truth and reconciliation. It's always hard to imagine what that will look like as you start to make progress. And seeing all of these changes come really give an incredible amount of hope and excitement for what this will mean for our students. So I don't have this last 2 years' numbers, but in 2019, Langley School District had 125 Aboriginal graduates. And I remember the very first graduation ceremony where our Aboriginal Education Department was working to sort of figure out what it means to ensure that Aboriginal heritage is weaved through. I remember the Aboriginal graduation ceremony, which takes place also with the sort of traditional ceremonies, and watching the incredible amount of pride of those students coming forward because the heritage was also woven in. And if we think about ourselves as our identity, there's so many pieces that make up who we are. And seeing our education system recognizing that, recognizing the whole child, that concept of, you know, one heart and one mind, bringing everything to the table is so important for education. You know, we have an Aboriginal advisory committee, as I mentioned, and they work as a team to create strength-based, personalized, student-centered learning that respects Aboriginal history, culture, values, and nurtures a sense of belonging for the success of all Aboriginal students. And that's the thing, school isn't just about class and your grades and what you've learned in that textbook. It's about the whole picture. So when talking about this legislation, talking about Bill 25, this is another piece that will empower our students to be able to move forward, empower our communities to be whole, and is another important step towards reconciliation. And it's the whole picture. And so that's why I was so thrilled to be able to stand up today and speak in support of this. And even though I could go on probably for another 2 hours, I won't, Honorable Speaker, because I know that there's other passionate people here too. So with that, I will take my seat.